In higher ed, we're all looking for big wins, but reducing a 75% application abandonment rate and achieving a 90% conversion rate, that's next level transformation. Michael Bettersworth, CMO at Texas State Technical College, shares how they achieved this by streamlining the application process with Element 451.
Our Element journey began out of a necessity. We were switching to a new SIS, and the application process was going to pose some real usability issues for us. We felt that application was going to hamper our enrollment. So we began quickly to evaluate different CRMs, different applications. So for context on that, our conversion rate with the prior application had about 75% abandonment of people clicking apply to submit. And the first weeks after going live with Element, we saw an 80% conversion, and that's now up to 90. So improving the usability of that application on the front end process has had a significant advance in our intake.
When technology works for students, it works for you. Visit element451.com to see how simplifying the application process with artificial intelligence will lead to significant results for your institution.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Strategic Storytelling, the art and science of brand narratives, a special 5-part strategic storytelling pulse check series brought to you by Enrollify and Element 451. I'm Maria Kuntz, a strategic marketing communications leader with over 15 years of experience advancing institutional reputations and access to higher education. Join me for conversations with seasoned leaders to explore why every message should be rooted in strategy, how to build and lead a storytelling-focused team, the role of AI in enhancing narratives, multicultural storytelling for authentic connections, and the synergy between creative and storytelling strategies. Our goal is to inspire you to uncover and amplify the most impactful messages, doing more with less by adopting a strategic, streamlined approach to content creation. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Strategic Storytelling, the art and science of brand narratives, where we explore how higher education institutions are redefining storytelling through innovative strategies. I'm your host, Maria Kuntz, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Tina Miller, Executive Director of Creative Communications at Arizona State University. Tina leads the charge in crafting strategic communications about AI at ASU and is a trailblazer in integrating AI tools to transform storytelling and content creation. Tina, it is an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, well, let's just jump right in. You told me that you started at ASU just as ChatGPT launched in late 2022. How did you react to the technology, and how did you and your team begin integrating it into your processes?
Yeah, I love this question. I was first exposed to it when I was at Learning Enterprise, which is one of the divisions of Arizona State University. When I started, I think it was November-ish of 22 when it launched. And one of my coworkers just said, hey, this is a really cool tool to help you enhance your writing. And so I tried it and I was like, well, this is interesting. And then I went to South by Southwest EDU that following spring, the spring of 23. And there were about 3 or 4 AI workshops out of the whole comprehensive conference. And they were standing room only. And I went to all 4 of them because I'm like, I've always had an interest in technology, always wanted to kind of be ahead of the curve. And this told me, okay, this is something that we really need to start paying attention to. And then in the summer of 2023, I transferred over to enterprise technology at Arizona State University, which is the IT division. And so around that time, our President Crow said to Lev Gonik, who was our CIO, you're in charge of AI. And so Lev said, okay, Tina, you're in charge of communicating about AI to all of Arizona State University. So I've always been really interested in technology. And so I just said, okay, let's do this. And so I just started first by putting it to my team and having my team adopt it first, because I knew that we were going to be looked at as subject matter experts. And if we weren't, I wanted them to be. And so I said, I want everybody on my team to be using at least 2 generative AI tools by the end of October 2023. And since then, I think, at any given time, we use 3, 4, 5, sometimes every day. So it just depends.
Yeah, I mean, what an incredible position to be in, because there are a lot of folks who still aren't sure if they should be using it, how they should be using it, the ethics. And you're in this really unique position where you were told you have to communicate about it and you have to be therefore expert in it in order to communicate about it.
Yeah. Well, and nobody said to me, you have to be an expert. I took it upon myself because because since we have total buy-in from the very top at ASU about what AI is and what the direction it's going for student success and for research and for the future of work. And I knew as communicators, and marketers, we know this, you got to be a product of the product. And so for me, I was like, let me check all this out. Let me immerse myself into learning this as much as I could, because that's what, as leaders, that's what we have to do right now. Our teams there are people on your team right now, I guarantee you, people that are listening to this or watching this, that they want to do things with AI. They just don't know how. And so as leaders, we have to be the ones going out there first, finding out the information, and then sharing it with our teams, because our teams might not be doing that. That's our job as a leader.
I love that. Creating the conversation, the openness, the transparency, so that folks can use it and do it with confidence and with community, discussing it.
Well, and as leaders, your employees take their cue from you. And so if you come in and you said, this is this great tool, and yes, there are some limitations, there's some things we pay attention to, but we're going to do this. Or do you want to work for a leader who's like, well, there's this thing called AI and we're supposed to do something with it. I don't know what. That doesn't really, it's supposed to help you write emails better. Like, that's just such a small part of what AI is. Right. But everybody takes their cue from the leader of the group.
Well, great. Let's jump in and talk about then, how is your team using AI for efficiency? I mean, you've mentioned to me that you use ChatGPT, Grammarly, WordTune, but I also just heard you say that you use 5 or sometimes 6 platforms a day. So tell us, how is that impacting your team's creativity and productivity?
Well, I will say too that platforms are tools, but I would say, first of all, what it has really done is it's allowed us to bolster our creativity, and so a lot of it, because we are a creative team, we have graphic designers and we have writers and we have videographers, and so for us, it's helped us with our creativity. So, for one example, one thing that we've done is we created a series of short videos called Tech Talks with our AI acceleration team and our technologists to kind of educate the basic public about what are these technical terms you hear, like RAG or fine tuning or some of these other terms. And we had 70 pages of transcripts from these videos. And so we had to go through, we created 10 of these short, tech talks. So what we did is we took all the transcripts, we loaded it into ChatGPT. We have ChatGPT EDU at ASU. And so we loaded it in there. And then we said, okay, like, one of our big topics is principal innovation. At ASU, everything we do is through the lens of principal innovation. So we said, okay, we need a script on principal innovation. We need to know who said it, what the timestamp was. And oh, by the way, we need a script for it. So we did 10 of those and we got the scripts back. Granted, we had to, you still have to smooth the edges, but that saved us an inordinate amount of time. And so we're looking at how can we save time with things. And so I think that's it. Creativity has helped. But then some of our routine tasks that we have to do, it's also helped with our productivity.
Awesome. Well, you've also told me about this really cool tool that your team created called the SpinCycle. And it's a storytelling bot built on ASU's AI platform. So tell us about how it works and what were the challenges you were facing that led you to create this?
Yeah. Well, and let me back up and say that is one of the other platforms that we use. Your listeners or your viewers can go to ai.asu.edu, and that is a website that my team maintains, and that is a single source of truth for ASU and all of our AI endeavors. The first link, or the first drop-down menu, says Technical Foundation on the left. And that will give everybody an idea of what we're doing internally to create these large language models, because we want to be able to scale it for our own community, because ASU's got 181,000 students. It's got, we have over 5,500 faculty, and you add staff on that. And so it's not reasonable for us to offer it to every single person. So we are creating our own models. And one that we created it's called Create AI, and it allows us, Create AI is the platform. And one of the tools we use is my AI builder. So we can go in and create bots. And so we're a storytelling organization. I know you appreciate that, especially because of your podcast. And so we're big into storytelling and putting humans in the center of technology. And so we looked at how can we become better at storytelling? And so we loaded up, I think, the past 2 years worth of stories. On average, we do about 2 stories a week on our blog. And so we uploaded all that. And then now how we use it is we say, okay, like if we're going to do follow-up stories, refresh us. Who did we interview for this? What did they say? So it allows us to do a lot of follow-up stories. It also allows us to put in the stories to say, okay, is this following the right format that we have set up? Because we are now we're using that to create templates. So training the model on this is how we write. So I would say that the challenge and why we created it is just because we didn't have really anything before that would help us say, okay, in the past, these are the things you wrote about, or, okay, we wrote about this. How can we take that and just massage that angle a little bit more to build out that story in a new or engaging way? And so those were some of the challenges. How can we readily at our fingertips be able to find what was said about or a topic? It's not just one story. It could be load all the topics in about student success and AI. And then let's look at that. And then, okay, what's missing from all of these? What is an angle that we haven't pursued yet? Or what's a follow-up story? So it helps us with a variety of things with our storytelling.
Tina, I love that because y'all are using it. You're using your own information to figure out how to expand your content strategy. What have we said? What can we repurpose? What can we refine? Doing a gap analysis. What haven't we already talked about? And, what's brilliant about this, and I think where there's maybe some concern in the broader sort of public about using AI is, there's a concern that it'll make stuff up or that you're starting from scratch. And where I see AI really effective and what you all are doing is you're training it, you're giving it the information. So everything you're pulling out is proprietary. It is your knowledge, and you're using it to do your own jobs and improve your own work, not just do your work for you, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and these platforms too, it's all proprietary to ASU. So they do have other data in there, but the one thing is that the data we put in is pretty clean because it's just recognizing the data that we're doing. So it's not, there's a less likelihood for hallucinations and things because it's just our pure data and our stories. And so that does help. So it's not clogged up with other things.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you also created a custom GPT based on the voice of ASU CIO. Can you walk us through that, the creation process, and how your team is using it?
Yes. So our chief information officer is Lev Gonik. And so if you don't know who he is, go to LinkedIn. He has 30,000 followers, and we'd love to add more. So you can look for CIO at ASU and find him. But so what I realized is we needed some type of a bot that we could be trained on our CIO's voice for. There's a little bit of a novelty there, but it's also if we want to ask certain questions and understand like what his view would be on it, because he speaks around the globe. He is a leader in talking about the future of AI, not only in higher education, but in the world at large. And so I knew there was an opportunity here for us to be able to like kind of have a digital twin of him when he wasn't available to ask questions to, or he's a very busy guy. And so I gathered up all of his speeches. He has a doctorate, so he's written a lot of papers. I gathered up transcripts from, when we launched our partnership or our collaboration, I should say, with OpenAI back in January of last year. We did probably 100 media interviews. And so I took those and I gathered all of that information and I put it into, we have ChatGPT EDU. And so I did try it on that one, that first. I am going to migrate over and kind of create a similar to that on our own platform. But I uploaded all of that to ChatGPT EDU, which is our own proprietary account with OpenAI. And then I had him go in and just start asking questions. What do you think about and we called the Gonic Guru. And so he loves it. So then he was adding more stuff to it. He was asking himself questions. And so how I've used it recently is we were looking for some new titles for a presentation that he's giving coming up soon in another country. And so I said, okay, here are the topics. What does Ghana Guru say about what should the topic of this presentation be? And I kind of did a little summary and it came back with like 10 topics and topic titles. I sent it to him and he's like, I love this one. So it's like,
Great.
Of course you do, because you created it.
Yes.
In a way. And so we use it for that. I've also used it, all of us in communications and marketing, we have to write stories and do quotes. And so I also use it from time to time when we're doing a story on him where we need a quote. And we'll just say, what does the Ghana Guru think about principal innovation? Or what does the Ghana Guru think about agent AI and higher education? And it will come back and it's usually in his voice, but I'm telling you, it does a very good job of being able to assimilate information how he would think. And he's in there too, and he talks to it. And I think he adds stuff every once in a while. But I do know there's another enterprise at ASU that also has created this for their executive vice president. So it's something that I do think a lot of marketers and communication professionals should be doing, because it allows you this corpus of information that you can actually speak with your spokesperson or your CEO and almost kind of like co-create assignments and things. So it's been pretty valuable to us.
Yeah, I love this because it's giving you a really rich data informed script starting point, first draft that you can work from.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if you have a job where you have to do a lot of writing, or you have, you do a lot of interviewing, or you need to incorporate a lot of quotes or ideas or whatever into your work. I would totally suggest that you even if you create your own, you can create your own bot with your own work too. I think that's a lot more work than I would like to do, but I would say it's so easy to create bots. You don't need ChatGPT EDU to do that, but it really, to me, is an interesting first, if you want to, try this out, if your listeners or your viewers are still like, well, what, I hear this a lot, like, what should I start with? Start by creating a bot of your leader or your president, or, granted, you probably won't get their permission, but we even created one for President Crow. But it is not ever going to probably see the light of day. But our AI team, it was one of their first projects, was creating a bot in the likeness of our president, just to kind of see how it would react and what it would do. And they don't really use it, but that was kind of the first personal bot that we used at ASU.
You have to explore the possibilities.
Yeah. And it's really, honestly, Maria, the most difficult thing, I think, in creating a bot like this, it's just collecting the information. So you have to know how the model that you're uploading it to, or the platform, you just have to know, like, is it better for PDFs? Is it better for Word? Is it better to cut and paste text or whatever? To me, that's what takes the longest, is gathering the corpus of information. Then you upload it, you tell them how you want it, and you can even say, talk in my voice, give me feedback, and, talk like the Ghana Guru or whatever. So that to me it's worth it, but it's a lot of work up front, but on the back end, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you inspired me, and we've been building a few on my team. And I think that hurdle of how to get the information in to train the model was a little sticky at first, but then I realized, okay, it can only take so many documents. So you just find a loophole. Well, okay, it'll be a 200-page document instead of 200 one-page documents. And that solved my problem.
Yeah. There's always a workaround.
Yeah, there's a workaround. All right. Well, you are scaling AI for, you said earlier, 181,000 students. I thought did you say 55,000 employees and faculty?
5,500 faculty. I think we have over 20,000 employees total.
Okay, so
So, yes.
20,000 employees, 181,000 students. So we're
Yes.
200,000 plus individuals.
Yeah.
How has ASU managed to implement and communicate AI initiatives effectively?
I would say it first started with a committee that was overseen by our president, and so that's kind of how it started. Is at the top they had a committee with all the executive vice presidents of how we're going to do this. But then Lev, our CIO, was kind of put in charge of leading the charge for it. And so, that's the one thing is you have to make sure you have a passionate, leader who is, all in with this. And then we created the AI website, which is ai.asu.edu. My team created that from scratch. We started with a Word doc and we just started filling in, which is how normal creative processes go. We just had a Word doc and we
Yep.
just started filling it in. Like, what do we want to talk about? And we had, before that, we were the first department to really start doing storytelling about AI for the rest of the university. And so we already had a few stories that we were able, to work with. But we went ahead and we created the website. We had input from marketing and communications colleagues across the university that might have, been a stakeholder in this. And then we kept reiterating every 2 weeks. We kept adding more. And as more people saw it, they'd be like, well, why don't we have digital trust guidelines for faculty on there? Okay, great. Let's put it on there. Why don't we have a page for all the millions of dollars of research that ASU is doing on AI? Okay, let's put that in there. And so that is the single source of truth for our university. And so that's really where it started, is we needed one place where people could find anything about AI at ASU. And so that's how we kind of started it. And then what my team is responsible for, we help with the AI Innovation Challenge, which I mentioned earlier. We have this collaboration with OpenAI. And so back in January of 24, what we did is we said, okay, we have a certain amount of licenses for ChatGPT EDU that are available. And we want to scale this but we can't give it out. We can't give out 200,000 licenses at $25 a month. I don't think the Arizona Board of Regents would approve that. And so we looked at, okay, let's do proposals. And if you are a faculty or a staff or a researcher, if you have a proposal where you can use ChatGPT EDU to make an impact in one of these three areas: student and teaching success, research for societal impact, or the future of work. If you can prove to us that you have a proposal that you can use ChatGPT EDU to further that along to create an impact, we'll give you a license for a semester. So far, we've had 4 challenges and we have over 500 projects and proposals that were submitted. We're actively working over 250 of those right now. And so that's another, and my team has been responsible for all the communication about it. If you go to ASU or ai.asu.edu, you will also see information about the challenge, because we have a new challenge every semester. We did one in the spring, one in the summer, one in the fall, and now we're doing one in the spring again. And so you'll see that. And so that was another way we're able to get everybody on board. And it's anecdotal, but what we're finding is there has been more adoption by faculty and staff of using AI than almost anything else, other than when the pandemic was going on and everybody had to go online. So there really is a big enthusiasm for AI at ASU. And so it's also continuing to keep those stories up front about what ASU is doing with AI. And that's what my team does.
Think you know ChatGPT? Think again. Unlock advanced features like projects in Canvas at the AI Engage Summit's ChatGPT Secrets session on February 26. You'll be able to implement what you learn immediately. This free virtual event is a must attend. Register now at enrollify.org/engage.
Yeah, and you said your team really cares about the human-centeredness of technology stories. So, tell our listeners, why is it crucial to keep the focus on the human-centered aspect, and how do you balance that with the technical aspects of AI?
Oh, sure. Well, because humans connect with other humans. And so that's what we want to always put the human in the middle of the story. So you can write a story about, here's this great product called ChatGPT or, Microsoft Copilot or whatever, but but that doesn't do anything. But it's like, how is the human being? How has it made them better? What did they learn from it? How can they use it to better society or better their learning opportunities? And so we always have to have a human that is in the story to relate the technology and frankly, to show how the technology is working. How did they use it? What were the results that they had? So technology is kind of always in the background, but we always try to put the human using it up front. And how that shows up with us for AI at Arizona State University is we do a lot of stories about how people are using it. And so we do stories about hackathons and about how our students are using AI in hackathons to learn a new skill. Or we show how they are using it in our AI Innovation Cloud Center and how they're using it to teach students how to create new model computer programs. And so we always want to make sure that we can draw a line to the human using it, but then also what is the impact of them using it?
Mm-hmm. Moving on a little bit, moving away from the technology and the storytelling of AI, I'd love to talk about another project that I know that your team has been working on, which is the ASU brand bot.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you ensure visual language and content align with branding guidelines across such a large institution?
Great question. Well, honestly, it's having what we just talked about. It's having the right training data that you can use in the bot. So this was a project that my team sent a proposal in during the AI Innovation Challenge, which was we want to create a brand bot so that anybody who is using, anybody who's a graphic designer or a writer at ASU or anything that's a creative field, that they will know, are they in compliance? And especially when you have new employees that come on board to ASU and new creatives, that they might not know exactly all of our brand standards. Because as you can imagine, especially where you work at the University of Colorado, it's the same thing. We have very strict branding guidelines. And so we created this and we partnered with our friends at the enterprise brand team at ASU, with the media relations team at ASU. So it was a collaborative effort with a lot of the main departments that would use this or oversee other divisions that are using it. And so that's how we trained it. We uploaded our ASU brand guidelines. We uploaded stories that were correct, stories that weren't correct, or things so that the bot would be trained on that. And so then we collaborated with our colleagues to say, okay, how can we make this better? And so they would put it through and say, okay, here's a story that was written about something about ASU. Is it compliant with brand standards? Here is a graphic design. And at ASU, we do not use AI generated images externally at all. Everything we use is photography. It is real students in real situations. So any AI generated imagery is something we do maybe internal, like, for a meeting or something. And so it's really just helping others and our other marketing and communications colleagues see, okay, is this brand compliant or not? And so it's been helpful. I would say the challenge though, Maria, has been that, again, this is on ChatGPT EDU. And so if you don't have access to ChatGPT EDU, then you can't access the bot. And so this was a project under the AI Innovation Challenge. So we are probably going in the next year, migrate that bot and recreate it on my AI builder, just so then we'll have more people in the ASU community will have access to it. Because if you don't have a license for ChatGPT EDU, then you can't access the bot. And that's a challenge I see with a lot of organizations. If you don't have access, you can't collaborate.
So, you've mentioned ChatGPT EDU and your proprietary bots a few times. I know our team is starting to use ChatGPT and having a subscription model that we're able to share. And you can build models and share a public link. So I wonder, I'm just thinking about the listener who might be saying, oh, well, how am I going to do that? Do you have recommendations or advice, or do you know some good directions to point people in if they don't have the exact same tools that you have?
Well, I would say, there's always the free versions. And I will back up and say at ASU now, departments, they can purchase the EDU license if they want. But during the challenge, here's the thing is we didn't charge them for it. We were absorbing the cost at Enterprise Technology. And so now faculty, staff, researchers can actually purchase EDU. So thank you for reminding me of that. But I would say, if you can't collaborate, I mean, I would just say, find some tools that are out there. So many free open source models right now that you can even just start. Like, you don't have to be a Gonic guru out of the gate, but you need to know how these models work and because they all kind of do the same thing. You get your information, you upload it, you ask questions, you refine it. You got to get really good at prompting, but just having a basic idea of how these models work is really where I started too. And that's why I play around with a bunch of different models I'm probably not going to use, but I just like to see what's out there. And I would say just start with that. But as you and I also know, do not provide any type of personal identification information, no information about students or whatever. And I think, that's pretty common sense. But
it's a good reminder. I think we were just talking about that at a meeting the other day, and it's a reminder, probably can't be said enough. Just make sure that what you're uploading is safe to upload. We need to protect people's privacy and their data.
Yeah. Well, what I've heard too is one time there was a statistic floating out there that about 60% of faculty at ASU have been using this in some form or fashion. It's probably more than that, but some faculty might not want to admit that, but people are using these models, even if they're not telling you they are. And your employees are using it. If they're telling you they're not, they're probably lying. Right? Yeah, maybe not. But in students, the same thing. Like, students use it too. I mean, so it's not. People are using these models.
Yeah, we have this conversation at home. I've got my son and 2 stepkids, and they were surprised at how much I was using AI. And I said, well, it's out there. It's not about do or don't. It's about learning how to use it appropriately, correctly. Right. Don't plagiarize. Don't try to write your paper with it, but start learning how to use it so that you're ahead of the curve. You don't want to fall behind.
Well, yeah. And look what we do. Like, we both work for major universities in this country. If we are not preparing our students for the workforce we are doing them a terrible, terrible disservice. And there's 3 camps.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And I think there's 3 camps that AI and higher ed falls into. One is the faculty totally embrace it wholeheartedly. Let's do this. We have instructors like Andrew Maynard, who they included into their curriculum. They really want students to understand it and know it. And then you have the second group who they're kind of half and half. You have some that are like, well, you can use it for idea generation or this or that, but you can't use it to write your papers, which if you understand how these models are formatted, you can see, and if they don't change, you can see the format when they're turning them in. But so that's kind of middle of the road. And then I think you have a smaller set that's like, nope, not talking about it, not using it. You can't use it in my classroom. And so I think the majority of faculty at ASU are more in the first and second category. But you do have, some professors, who don't believe in it and who aren't going to adopt it. And, you just hope that other professors and other classes will do that, because it is an important technology.
It just reminds me of, somewhere around 2007, 2008, and the advent of the smartphone, or the first iPhone. Mm-hmm. And I was working in a media-centered nonprofit and just learning about this term early adopters. And I think just like AI, just however many years ago, the smartphone was brand new and very few people had it. And now they're ubiquitous. And what I hear you describing is sort of that early, mid, and they're going to be late adopters. That people, it might take longer, but I think in 5, 10, 20 years, it's going to be a completely different world and conversation.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, and this, I travel around the country a lot and talk about AI, and a lot of it is the importance of leaders adopting this and how do we do that as leaders. But I also speak to the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, or OLLI for short, and they're usually in most university communities. And so most of these people are 65 and older. And so I have to slow my pace down a little bit, but it's also educating them. And some of them, I would say at any given time, if I have maybe 40 seniors in a class and I say, okay, how many of you have tried ChatGPT or another? I mean, they mostly only know ChatGPT, but I'll say, or another one. And I would say 75% of the hands go up, but they don't know exactly everything it can do. And so I'll walk them through, okay, let's talk about, you have a health issue. Let's talk about how you can find out what are the symptoms. You can find out how you can eat better. You can find out like a lot of things. And so I kind of reiterate a certain scenario for them. And then I show, okay, we're going to go travel to Hawaii. How do we find out which island? How do we find out what food? How do we, so I think it's a lot of people, know about it. And I think they use it to certain degrees. But I think you're right. And then in the next several years, it's going to seep into every corner of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the sooner you embrace it, again, I'm not trying to be a total techno optimist, but it's not going away, and it's only going to get better and better. And you and I both know that this is the worst AI that we're ever going to see. It's only going to get better and better. That's why I say just jump in, just start experimenting with free models, just so you understand how they work and you can be in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, with that, what do you think the future of storytelling with AI in higher education is, and how is ASU positioning itself to lead the AI transformation?
Yeah, love this question. I would say there are a few things for the future of marketing and communications professionals, especially in higher ed. It's multimodal storytelling. It's okay. You have something, you have a student who, goes into a classroom, and maybe it's a history class. And so they're looking at an interactive timeline. And then, there are certain things they click on, and they can hear some, like from a historical perspective. Like we have a professor who, Retha Hill, who actually started this, where she had her class do a project where they found the unsung heroes from the American Revolution. And with AI, they gave them appearances. They had voices to talk about what they did. And so it's similar to that, where you can have a student, you have the interactive timeline, you have audio recording of them, doing some Civil War battle or whatever. And then you might have a bot that you can ask questions to. Okay, what happened? So multimodal is definitely something that I see everywhere in curriculum development, marketing, communications, how we do campaigns. I think that's a big one. Personalized content is another one, especially for us marketers who are trying to do A/B testing, or we're trying to find those, some different markets, our students, because of the enrollment cliff. We're all having to find other students. And so that can help in immersive experiences. We have something at Arizona State University called Dreamscape. And it is an immersive experience where students in biology can actually go in. They have the headsets. They can understand how to administer medicines to this ailing, it's like a dragon/dinosaur thing. And then the bot is going to be in there saying, they can ask questions as they're in this immersive experience. They're asking the bot questions about the curriculum. And so I see that as something else, immersive learning for students, because think about it too, Maria, this younger generation, they're all about gamifying. And so we need to meet students where they're at by the pour and snore standing in front of a classroom and having students take notes doesn't work anymore. We need to meet them where they're at, which means you put them into the curriculum. And how you do that is through AI and through these immersive experiences. And so that's what we're doing at ASU, is we're constantly looking at how can we make these immersive courses better. Right now we have Dreamscape, and we're working on that. We're working on agent AI inside of certain immersive learning experiences. And for us, it's continuing to stay on that cutting edge in what is going on. Like right now, this year we're going to focus on agentic and AI agents, because that's where we're going. And people look to ASU to say, what are you doing? And sometimes I have to remind myself when I give these talks is that we are further ahead than a lot of universities. And so I'm always sharing, what we do, because it provides a framework and just like a pathway to what other marketers and communicators in higher ed can strive for.
Yeah, I keep hearing agentic AI, and I think that I'm anticipating going to be the topic that dominates AI for 2025. So,
Yeah.
If you haven't already gotten comfortable using AI, ChatGPT, DALL-E, Copilot, anything, get comfortable with those, because, next up, you're going to be hearing about agentic AI, and there's a lot to learn there.
Yeah. I mean, and we're just scratching the surface with a lot of agentic AI, but one of the things I'm working on right now is how this is the opportunity that we have, that I have taken on, is how can I define agentic? And there's a difference, I think, between agentic and AI agents. It's kind of the same thing, but a little different nuance. So I'm right now looking at how can I communicate this out to the ASU community, because it's going to go into our CIO presentations. It's going to go into the publications we do. It's going to go into everything. So that's what my team, we're working on right now, is how are we defining that, not only for ASU, but for higher ed. And I think that's what makes us a little different, Maria, sometimes, is that not only are we looking at how is ASU approaching AI, or how is ASU approaching different advanced technologies, but then we take it one step further to say, okay, but how can this also help our community? How can this help our state? How can this help our sector? How can it help our colleagues? And so we're always looking at how can these things be scaled, not just for ASU, but for other people who can benefit from it.
Tina, you've talked a bit throughout this conversation about leadership and leading teams using AI. So what is your top piece of advice for a leader or aspiring leader trying to empower their team to adopt and embrace AI?
I would say jump in wherever you're at and just start learning. There is so much information out there. There's your podcast. There's a variety of podcasts. I listen to the AI Marketing Institute with Paul Reitzer every week. I also listen to Hard Fork. It's a New York Times podcast. So you just have to focus on literacy as a leader. And that means just bombarding yourself. Sign up for newsletters. Go to ai.asu.edu as well. But look at what other higher ed institutions are doing. Wisconsin, Michigan, Harvard, Stanford. They're all doing great stuff with AI too. But it starts with literacy, and it starts with you as the leader, making sure that you're up on all of these things.
And now, Tina, let's do a few lightning round questions. What makes a great story?
I would say it is making sure that you have a connection with the audience, and that it's on a level that can evoke an emotional response or empathy or inspiration.
Number 2, what's your favorite AI tool right now?
ChatGPT edu. Period.
Great.
End of sentence.
Done. 3, if you could automate one task in your work forever, what would it be?
It would be turning raw ideas into polished prose in first drafts.
Beautiful. And finally, what's your personal mission as a leader?
I want to be a bridge that will connect people, marketing and communications professionals, to using AI for greater and greater potential in their work and in their personal lives.
Wonderful. Tina, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey and insights on integrating AI into storytelling. It's truly inspiring to see how your team is leading the charge at ASU and really for the greater higher ed community.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of Strategic Storytelling, the art and science of brand narratives. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share this episode with your network. And until next time, keep sharing stories.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.